Alright, so before this video starts, I just wanted to make a huge announcement that this channel just surpassed 25,000 subs, and I can't even begin to express my gratitude, my joy, my surprise at hitting this pretty big milestone. 25,000 seemed so far away a couple of years ago, and yet here we are. I promise I'll be doing a 25,000 sub celebration giveaway very soon. It's just this Tacoma build has me so completely busy that I just haven't had the time to coordinate something that big, but I promise it is coming. However, last year I made a goal that as soon as I hit 25,000 subs, I was going to change the name of this channel. As much as I love Baptism Overland and how it's been with me since the very beginning, I just feel like the word Overland lately has just been so overused. Also, I got tired of people asking me if it's a Christian-based organization, and also it kind of pigeonholes me into one particular subject when there's so much more I want to do with this platform. Don't get it twisted, it's still going to be overland off-road camping centric, but I want a name that just kind of engulfs all of that, and also at the same time still be rooted in like biblical phrases but not be so overt. But I think this video is the perfect time to debut the new name, especially since we're doing a really cool install on the vehicle. I think you already saw this coming if you follow me on Instagram, but without further ado, from this day forward, Baptism Overland shall now be known as... Alright, on to the video. So what you just saw is basically the time I went through the trails with my butt cheeks clenched. It was a pretty long water crossing. There was a part where I even almost got stuck, and the water had already gone just below the headlights. And the one thing I was really worried about was the water getting into my engine and basically just shutting everything down. And I said, I don't ever want to be this anxious about a water crossing again. Now, yeah, this is kind of a cart before the horse type of thing. This is not usually something I would install in the very beginning, but take a look at this. So parts have just been trickling into my garage. The front bumper is still here. I'm still working on it because it's still missing parts that I need. It's a whole video in and of itself that we'll talk about. Just know that I have not been happy. I have the leaf springs that came in, so now I can actually get the lift installed, which I am going to be doing this weekend. And I just have a bunch of other stuff that I can't install yet until certain other parts come in. But a couple of things that did arrive that I was able to install was the snorkel and the differential breather tube. Now, I know when it comes to snorkels, there's sometimes this stigma of like, oh my god, here comes another overlander with his snorkel on the vehicle. Like, why do you even really need that? Having a snorkel dramatically reduces the risk of water getting into your engine. Not to mention, also when you're on the trails and it gets really dusty, having a snorkel kind of at the top, you're getting much cooler air for better engine efficiency. Now for the snorkel, I went with Safari 4x4, which by the way is not ARB. It's a common misconception. Most people like to call this the ARB Safari snorkel, but Safari 4x4 is a totally separate company from ARB. They're distributed by ARB, but they're not the same company, just in case you didn't know that. Now what is ARB though is a differential breather kit that I also installed. If you're not going to do a snorkel, if snorkels are not your thing, at the very least get a differential breather, because what you don't want is water rising above your diff and then water getting into your diff through that little breather that's on it. It's just basically a tube that goes from that breather on your diff to somewhere higher up where water can't get into it. Super easy to install, but let's just go and jump right into it. So here are the major parts you're going to get with your kit. Obviously you get your snorkel, you also get your intake scoop, this connector tube that connects this snorkel to your air box. You also get this template that's taped to the inside of the packaging box, so do not throw away the box until you've taken this out. And you also get your box of hardware, which includes a bracket and some ring clamps. Before I did anything, I held the snorkel up to the vehicle and eyeballed it just to make sure they sent me the right part. That would have been disastrous if I cut into the vehicle only to find out this part didn't fit. After laying down some painter's tape, I lined up the template. Alright, so I have the template lined up pretty well. You'll see that the orientation of this, the numbers that are on the template is basically going this way towards the front of the vehicle. And then this edge of the template rides along the edge of this part of the fender. And then the side of the template rides along the edge of this part of the fender. Just make sure you have all this as lined up as best as you can, because one thing you don't want to do is to start cutting into this fender and then find out that you were off. Now I need to remove the intake assembly and air box. First, remove the hose near the intake manifold using pliers to open up the clamp. Next, use a 10mm socket to loosen the ring clamp holding the intake to the manifold. Over by the air box, unplug the MAF sensor. It can get a little tricky, but be careful not to break the tab. Then finally, with a pry tool, remove the plug that secures the wiring to the intake and the entire unit can be removed. Personally, I like to put a towel in the intake manifold to prevent anything entering in there while I do the install. For the air box, remove the air filter and then the 4 bolts holding the box down. Now I can't really show it all, but inside the engine bay you'll see some square plugs that hold the fender liner to the vehicle. You'll need to pop out some from the top, as we'll need to move the fender liner out of the way in order to bolt the snorkel on. The ones on the inside of the engine bay aren't that tough to pop out. Now we have to remove the 4 bolts on the outside. There are 2 above the tires and 2 in the front. Once you open up the fender slightly, you'll find a couple more of those square plugs, and these ones can be a pain to remove as there's not much room in there to manipulate the tabs. If you want, you can just pull and break them and just order a bag of new ones on Amazon for pretty cheap. You only need to get the fender open enough to reach all of the bolts on the snorkel. After double checking the template's position one last time, I went and marked where I'll be drilling and cutting. Then using a punch, I went and marked where I'll be drilling. For the bolt holes, I started small and worked my way up to 1/2 inch. I know that seems like huge holes for the bolt sizes on the snorkel, but trust me, you'll need that extra play later when adjusting the snorkel into position. It's nearly impossible to drill perfectly sized holes and have the snorkel mount perfectly. The kit comes with large flat washers for that exact reason. Now it's time to cut out that large area for the snorkel. You can use whatever you might have that will make a clean cut. I personally used a jigsaw with a blade meant for sheet metal and just went around it carefully and drilling out holes as I went. The body lines of the Tacoma makes it pretty difficult to get it perfect. Then finally, I used my Dremel to sand off any burrs to smoothen the edge. Now this is the important part. Make sure you use some touch-up paint around the edges of your holes to prevent any rusting. You don't need a color matched one, as you'll never see these holes again. I just happen to have matte black laying around. To prepare the snorkel for mounting, screw in the 6 bolts from the kit using blue Loctite. Now mount the top bracket, but don't tighten. Dry fit the snorkel, making sure it's in the right place. This is when you'll be glad you had some play in those bolt holes. Over at the top, you'll need to figure out where to drill the holes, but you can't just mark it because the bracket falls underneath the snorkel. What I did was use double-sided tape on the bracket so it sticks to the vehicle. Then I removed the bolts, and when I took away the snorkel, the bracket was left in place. Now I can mark where I need to drill the holes. Now Safari gives you plugs to put in there, but I found them to be a pain to use as they're square. Instead I used riv nuts, which is more secure. Get yourself a riv nut tool if you don't have one yet, as they make installing riv nuts so much easier. Now for the air box, there are some slight modifications you're going to need to make. First, remove the intake piece on the front. You can discard this as you won't need it anymore. Now on the air box itself, you'll need to smoothen the opening by cutting, grinding, and sanding out the tabs around the inlet. I used some side cutters, utility knife, and my Dremel sander. This is the only way the snorkel tube will be able to fit around it without leaking air. From the outside, insert the snorkel connector tube into the factory hole where the air used to come in. You'll have to do a lot of massaging to get this to go in fully, and it was a bit of a pain. As you're doing this, please be careful your forearms aren't getting cut by the sharp edges of the holes you drilled earlier. Once it's in, place a ring clamp around it and then put your air box back in place, sliding in the inlet into the tube. Once you've bolted it back down, tighten up the ring clamp. From here, I connected the intake back into the opposite order I removed it. I won't need to do anything here anymore as this part of the install is finished. Back on the outside, I secured the top bracket and did another dry fit. You'll find there's a lot of dry fitting. Here I'm just adjusting the connector tube and making sure the ring clamp is in a position where I'll be able to tighten it from below. Again, be careful not to cut yourself with that edge. With everything in place, I put the snorkel in and from below made sure it slid right into the connector tube and the ring clamp is accessible for tightening. Now place the washers and nuts on the bolts and tighten. Some are in tougher spots and this is why removing the fender liner was crucial. Don't tighten it just yet. Next, I bolted the top bracket to the snorkel itself, and with that in place, I went and tightened all the bolts. Then, like a star on a Christmas tree, I placed the final piece on top and tightened the ring clamp. So I'm going to be 100% candid here. When I went and tightened the snorkel down, the holes that I drilled into the A-pillar no longer lined up with the bracket. Like I was able to get the bolts through one part of the bracket, but you'll see up here, that hole is like way off, and that's because after this thing got tightened down, it shifted that whole thing this way a little bit. It's not that big of a deal. It's not really a structural thing up there. The whole thing is pretty much held in place down here. That's just for stability, and I haven't had any issues with rattling or anything with just one bolt, and you can't even really tell because that hole kind of goes underneath the snorkel. See, the problem with trying to get that to line up is that the bracket goes underneath the snorkel, so you have to like get this on, tighten it, then remove the snorkel and find out where that bracket lies, then mark it again, then put it back on, then tighten it again. So you have to like keep tightening this to make sure that it's in the right place before you start marking those holes up there. But the problem with that is that there are so many bolts down here that it's just going to be a pain in the butt to tighten and take them off and then tighten and take them off. But if you want it to fall just right, you're going to probably have to do that. I wish they would have done something else, some other way to kind of get the bracket on the outside so you can tighten it, mark it, and then kind of just drill it in place. That would have been so much simpler. But anyway, on to the next part. I gotta turn this truck around so we can install the breather tube. So since we've been talking about water intrusion, I figured we might as well go ahead and install a differential breather kit as well. This is something that I had on the Jeep, and it basically prevents water from getting into your differential. Now you can definitely DIY one of these. It's not a complicated system. It's really just a tube going from your diff to somewhere higher up and out of the way so water can't get into it. But since they're like sub 100 bucks, they're not bad at all. I figured I might as well just get a full-blown kit. This one is from ARB, and it comes with everything you need from mounting hardware to the filter to all the tubes, and then you can get this mounted up and make sure that you're protecting your diff from any water intrusion. So as you can see, there's not really a lot going on with this kit. You got your filter, tubing, got your zip ties, got your fittings, and instructions. So first thing is to construct a filter assembly. This vehicle only has one breather tube coming from the differential, so we need to plug up 3 of the holes with the plugs provided. Make sure they're tight. Then on the 4th hole, place the push valve. Now the assembly has mounting holes as well, and you can definitely mount it wherever, but to prevent from drilling more holes in the vehicle, I decided to mount it to a really strong magnet I found at the hardware store. This way I can place it wherever I wanted and move it around if it interfered with anything, and trust me, this magnet is strong enough that it won't get knocked off. I decided I was going to mount this inside the well for the taillight. Removing the taillight is easy. Just remove the 3 bolts on the side and pull straight out. From here I routed the tube through and then plugged one end into the filter assembly and then mounted it in the back. With the magnet, I didn't have to drill or manipulate nuts and bolts. I simply just placed it where I wanted, making sure it clears the taillight later. Now above the differential, you'll find the existing valve. I used some WD-40 to loosen all the grime around it and then screwed it off. I then screwed in the push valve that came with the kit, making sure it was tight enough to prevent any water intrusion into the diff. Then I routed the tube by following other factory wires that were down there to make sure it clears any suspension components. Once I got closer to the valve, I cut the tube to size with ample slack for when the axle travels up and down, and then plug the tube right into the valve and the install is complete. And there you go. Wasn't too bad. I was actually expecting a much more difficult install, especially with the snorkel, but it turned out to be a little bit easier than I had imagined. It is a little tasking. There are some things you have to do, and it's very nerve-wracking to cut into your vehicle, especially a big hole like that. So just make sure that you get that template and mark it appropriately. Make sure that it's lined up really well. Take your time with that. Do not just start cutting and then before you know it, you've messed up. And one thing you definitely don't want to skip when you're installing the snorkel, and it's kind of easy to skip, and that is putting touch-up paint wherever you drilled holes or wherever you cut. Wherever you drilled and wherever you cut, there is now some exposed metal, and when water does get in there, you're going to start to get some rusting, and that rusting is going to start to spread. So make sure you protect all those areas with just some touch-up paint so that you're not getting a rusted out panel in a couple of years. In hindsight, I should have used some RTV silicone around any of the openings or any of the bolt holes. That could have helped prevent water from getting in even more. Now, I know some of you are probably wondering, am I worried about driving through the rain with the snorkel being up there? Is water going to get in? Do I need to turn my snorkel backwards? Well, turning your snorkel backwards pretty much defeats the purpose of why you have a snorkel. The answer is no. You don't have to do any of that. Safari 4x4 designed the opening of their snorkel to pretty much be rain resistant. They said you could drive through a typhoon and it wouldn't even matter, because the way it's angled and the way they have like a guard in the front, water can't really go in, up, and into your snorkel, so you don't really have to worry about that at all. Now, there are some mods you can get, like you can get like a sock that goes over your snorkel opening. There's even those like mushroom kind of looking snorkels that you can put on top. I know a company out here in Florida called Snorkel Upgrade, and they make that, and it actually blows out like debris and dust and also leaves. It'll blow it out of there. I think that's a pretty cool option. I personally like the look of this kind of snorkel better than like a mushroom kind of top, but that's just a preference thing. I don't mind either way. If their version is a lot more efficient, then I'm all for it. But if your worry is rain getting into the snorkel, I don't think that's something you have to worry about. If that is an issue you end up having, take it up with Safari 4x4. But that's it. I feel a little bit accomplished that I got some mods on the vehicle. Now I know it's water protected in some way, shape, or form. Now we just have to move on to wheels, tires, lift, and this bumper that is going to be the death of me. Yeah.
Does anybody even see me?
Oh, and thanks again for 25,000 subs.